Have you ever wondered how one small act of kindness could change not just one life, but thousands? This is the story of Krista, a nurse whose simple decision to help a stranger transformed an entire community. The morning was freezing in downtown Chicago. Most people were still sleeping, but Krista Matthews was finally heading home after a long night shift at County General Hospital. Her feet hurt, her scrubs were stained with coffee, and all she could think about was her warm bed waiting at home. Walking down the empty street, Krista pulled her thin jacket tighter. The hospital couldn't afford to give nurses new uniforms, let alone warm coats. But she loved her job, even with its challenges. Every day, she helped people who had nowhere else to go. That's when she saw him. An elderly man in an expensive suit, swaying on his feet about 20 feet ahead. Before she could call out, he collapsed onto the icy sidewalk, his briefcase spilling papers everywhere. "Sir, are you okay?" Krista ran to him, her exhaustion forgotten. The man wasn't responding. His face was pale and clammy, signs she knew too well from her years of nursing. Checking his pulse, she found it weak and irregular. "Hold on, sir," she said, pulling out her phone and dialing 911. While waiting for the ambulance, she started chest compressions, her training taking over. His ID had fallen nearby. Charles Bennett, it read. "Stay with me, Mr. Bennett," she kept talking as she worked to keep his heart going. "The ambulance is coming. You're going to be fine." The 5 minutes it took for help to arrive felt like hours in the bitter cold. At the hospital, Krista stayed long past her shift, making sure Mr. Bennett was stable. The doctors confirmed he'd had a minor heart attack. If she hadn't been there, things could have been much worse. 3 days later, Krista was checking Mr. Bennett's vitals during her regular shift. He was sitting up now, looking much better than that morning on the sidewalk. "You saved my life," he said, watching her work. "Why did you stop to help? Most people would have walked by." Krista smiled while adjusting his IV. "I'm a nurse. That's what we do. We help people who need it." "Do you know who I am?" he asked quietly. "Mr. Bennett, yes. I saw your ID that morning. I own Bennett Memorial Hospital," he said. Krista's hands froze for a moment. Everyone knew Bennett Memorial. It was the biggest private hospital in the city, where the wealthy got the best care money could buy. "I'd like to offer you a job," he continued. "Chief Nursing Officer at Bennett Memorial. Triple your current salary, better hours, top-of-the-line equipment." Krista looked around the cramped hospital room, with its peeling paint and outdated machines. Triple salary would mean she could finally move to a better apartment, maybe even help her mom with her medical bills. But then, she thought about her patients. The homeless man who came in last week with frostbite. The single mom working 3 jobs who couldn't afford her kid's asthma medicine. "I'm sorry, Mr. Bennett," she said softly. "I'm honored, really. But I can't leave. The people here, they don't have anywhere else to go. They need someone who understands them, who'll fight for them." Charles Bennett stayed quiet for a long time, just watching her. In his eyes, Krista saw something change. 2 weeks later, Krista was having coffee in the break room when her friend Maria rushed in with a newspaper. "Look at this," she exclaimed. The headline read, "Bennett Memorial Hospital announces major change, becoming non-profit to serve all communities." Krista nearly spilled her coffee. The article explained how Charles Bennett was transforming his private hospital into a charitable institution that would serve everyone, regardless of their ability to pay. Later that day, Mr. Bennett appeared at County General. He didn't need to explain why he was there. Krista could see it in his eyes. "Will you help me?" he asked simply. "Not as an employee, but as a partner. Help me understand what these people really need. Help me make healthcare work for everyone." Over the next year, Krista and Charles worked together to create something new. They combined the resources of Bennett Memorial with the community-focused approach of County General. Krista's experience with underprivileged patients helped shape policies that actually worked for people who needed them most. They created mobile clinics for neighborhoods without hospitals. They started programs to help people get their medications at prices they could afford. They trained staff to treat everyone with dignity, whether they had insurance or not. 1 year later, Krista stood next to Charles at the opening of the new Bennett Community Health Network. Families lined up outside, families who had never had access to good health care before. A young mother approached them, holding a little boy's hand. "Thank you," she said, tears in her eyes. "My son's asthma medicine used to cost more than our rent. Now we can afford both." Charles turned to Krista, his eyes warm. "You taught me something important," he said. "I spent my whole life building wealth, thinking that was success. But real wealth isn't about what we have. It's about what we give to others." Krista watched more families enter the hospital, remembering that cold morning when she'd stopped to help a stranger. She couldn't have known then that helping one person would lead to helping thousands. That's the thing about kindness. You never know how far it will reach. One small act, one decision to stop and help, one moment of putting someone else first. It can start a chain reaction that changes countless lives. As the sun set on that first day of the new hospital network, Krista realized something powerful. We all have the ability to make a difference. Sometimes it's as simple as stopping to help someone in need. Sometimes it's standing up for what's right, even when it's hard. And sometimes it's showing others that there's a better way to do things. The story of Krista and Charles reminds us that true change starts with one person choosing to care. In a world that often feels cold and uncaring, we all have the power to be that spark of warmth, that moment of kindness that changes everything. What will you do with that power? How will you use your chance to make a difference? Because the truth is, we're all like Krista. We all have opportunities every day to help others. The only question is, will we take them? Remember, it's not about having wealth or power or status. It's about having a heart that's willing to stop and help. That's how real change happens. That's how we make the world better, one act of kindness at a time. And who knows? Maybe your act of kindness today will be the one that changes thousands of lives tomorrow.